Welcome to the session. We have folks from EPA, FDA, USDA. We even have folks from the VA popping in here because of some of their data collection needs. So we appreciate everybody joining us with these briefings. GovBrief does our best to be able to pull in people and make sure that you get your answers from folks that matter. And today we have Jimmy Burkett. How do you say that, Jimmy?
Curtis.
Burtis. He's a study director for IR4, which works directly with USDA. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. And we had Daniel Thompson. He's going to give us some insight on the software we'll be talking about today, iAdvantage Software eStudy. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the GovBrief host. And this session includes vendor information. It's not affiliated or endorsed by GSA. GSA gave us this, Daniel, just so you know. And all participation by you in the government is not an indication or endorsement to purchase from any vendor. This enables you to be able to have conversations with everybody here. And it is being recorded. We're going to disseminate the recording after the fact. So we appreciate that. Real quick, we have, we'll talk about some of the DOGE directives, some of the things that are coming down on your agencies. We're going to review some agency challenges. We've done a few of these and collected a lot of information, right, Daniel? We've got a lot of information from folks especially from EPA and USDA, right?
That's right.
And talking about how you can make the right choice for your data. There's a lot of folks that were asking specific questions. I'll talk about those in a minute as we're getting going. And like I mentioned, we have case studies from IR4. Jimmy's going to review those with us. And then we'll talk about data collection and those case studies and get to your Q&A. Make sure you have your questions answered best we can. And if there's anything you'd like to do, some procurement options and funding, and then we'll get you out of here by 5 of, I promise. All right. So let us know what made you decide to join us here today. Is it DOGE? Number one, a lot of folks asking about that. And maybe you have a current data collection need. Maybe you're in management and you want your data to work. Maybe you're just tired of scrubbing that old data that you've been collecting for years, or your boss made you come. And let us know if there's anything else you'd like to comment on. And if you let us know if you've been to a briefing before. I'm going to go ahead and read some of these while you're filling that out. Let us know about that. So I have one from David from EPA. Best practices for effective design protocols to ensure data quality that minimizes duplicative efforts, data collection efforts. Spot on, right, Daniel?
Spot on.
That doesn't get any better than that. And another David said, it'd be best briefing ever if EPA management will attend and understand the funding requirements for achieving quality data in database systems. Love that, David. Hopefully we have some folks that listen in. Sienna, I could take away things to implement and improve efficiency. That goes to the DOGE piece. Great, Sienna. Love that one. Let's see. Melissa, I learned something to contribute to the agency to accomplish its mission. Love that one, Melissa. Les says, if Dave plays Eruption on the acoustic guitar. Right. That's not happening, Les. Let's see. Stephen, it's short and to the point. Love that one, Stephen. And Carl says it's clear and to the point. Short, clear, to the point. Got that, Jimmy?
Got it.
You're on.
We can make that happen.
That's right. We're going to make that happen. Let's see. And Julie said, learn something new. So we'll get that. Make sure that is. And we will have the slides. Tony says that we share the slides or notes are shared after the presentation. You got that? That's going to happen. We're going to share this in just a minute. And Robert says, let's see. Actually, Seth says, we obtain clarity on data management practices. Hopefully we do a little bit of that. And then the other question was, please address. If we have anything that you want us to address, pop that into the chat. Want to make sure we get that. Any existing e-study examples relevant to EPA-State E-Enterprise for the environment's goal of improving data? I love that too. That's a great one, Barry. Awesome. We'll try to do that for him, right, Daniel?
Absolutely.
Melissa says, all things to create clean data, avoiding duplicative databases. Apparently that's an issue. Duplicative databases. Let's see what else we got here. I'd like to understand how platforms like eStudy are being adopted under DOGE and whether there are upcoming opportunities. Love that. Fantastic. Anything else you'd like to know, please put that in the chat. We do love the questions. You can raise your hand. You can do the Q&A. Private dialogue, you can send to Jay Blackburn or info at iAdvantage down there at the bottom. You can see that throughout the presentation. We also love the feedback, and I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to grab our session docs right here and get these for you, and you're going to tell me whether or not you can get to this link. I'm hoping this all works when we pop it in. Every once in a while, some folks have a challenge. If you could do me a favor, click on this and let me know if it goes to something that looks like that. If everybody can click on that for me, give me a thumbs up. And I'm going to end this poll in about 10 seconds for everybody that's here. 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom. All right. This is what we got. 33% are here for DOGE. 50% have a data collection need. Love that. We have a couple of comments here that we'll make sure we get to you as well. And I'll read those off. Everybody got to that? Did I see any thumbs up coming? Did I miss them? Can everybody get to these session docs? So in there you have the DOGE EO, you have the briefing presentation, you have the EPA E-Enterprise docs and links, some of the stuff that we've known about so far. All right, fantastic. If you can't, let me know, and we'll make sure we get those to you as soon, in some other fashion, as soon as we can. All right, Daniel, give us a dose about iAdvantage. We know you're in Cary, North Carolina. Tell us how you guys got started and what you do.
Yeah, so like Dave said, we're a software company. We were founded all the way back in 2003 out of a necessity of our sister company, who was a team of scientists that needed a solution internally to handle a massive amount of data that was currently being done on paper. So collectively, we have over 30 years of data capture, management, and reporting, primarily in the regulatory space for the chemical, agricultural, and seed industry. Majority of that data then will be submitted to regulatory bodies like EPA, USDA, et cetera. We are a small business as well as a GSA schedule holder.
That's fantastic. And you do a lot of work with reporting to those agencies, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep, that's correct.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And a lot of folks are asking about the DOGE directives. I was looking at some of the other comments. Here's the 5 areas we're going to be talking about within that. We have technology modernization, where we need to improve the efficiency. A lot of folks are talking about duplicative efforts, right? That's one of the reasons. Cost reduction, that also applies to duplicative efforts. Process optimization is going to be included in this, as well as data management and public-private partnerships, because that's kind of how that works. Is that what IR4 is?
It's exactly what we are.
Okay, cool. All right, well, and we'll dive into that a little bit for those of you who don't know who they are. Specifically, some of the current challenges that we've seen in EPA and other agencies dealing with research and development. We highlighted these for you because this is some of the things that you're doing, right, Jimmy, is field testing, gathering information from the field?
That's correct. That's primarily what our responsibilities are.
Super. So we'll be talking about that, because EPA, obviously, DOGE coming down saying, hey, we want to make things more efficient. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So let us know this. Next thing up for our interaction is, what is your role? You're in strategy, design, collection, analysis, reporting. Maybe you're the administrator. Let us know where you land in that field of things. We always like to know, especially for you, because we do these for you. That's why we do the briefings, because we want to make sure that we're getting your feedback so that we can incorporate it back up, and any reports that we make back to the brass of the agencies gets to them. So we start talking about data, Daniel. What are some of the things that you'd like folks to know about making the right choice for being able to collect the data properly?
Well, I'm sure Jimmy can attest to this when they started looking for a solution. But one of the points that I want to mention is that a lot of times it's going to be a group effort, especially if you're migrating away from a current workflow or process, whether it's on paper or another data platform, when you're going to move to a new platform or a new workflow, it takes multiple different end users to give you their stories on, the most important things to them. We've listed a couple of those up above, but depending on your situation, these might change. One of the ones that a lot of people forget is compliance and security. I know that's a big one, especially with cloud products. Make sure it's FedRAMP compliant. Make sure that it's meeting any compliance efforts that are being pushed. Another one is data storage. That's a big one that we've been seeing a lot recently, is especially if you're collecting massive amounts of data, you want to make sure that you're not running out of space. So those are things to consider, ahead of time. Another one is reporting analysis. What good is a data platform if you're not able to get the data back out and you're not able to analyze the data? So all these things are things to take into consideration. But Jimmy can attest to this. It's a lot of work, and it's not a short-term thing. It's a marathon, and it's a long-term investment. So taking your time, taking all of these listed things into consideration is going to be important.
And there's, like, we had a couple folks were talking about duplicative efforts of the data, either data storage or even data collection, right? Sometimes you have to keep collecting the data over and over again because either you didn't collect it right the first time or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing, is especially if this is going to be, a wider initiative, maybe across certain agency programs. If it's going to be across multiple, you need to make sure that you're bringing everyone in who's involved to make sure, to see, you guys aren't crossing boundaries, making sure you're not collecting the same data, and having a unified platform that allows you to all work together can help you prevent that and increase efficiency. And like you said, remove duplicative efforts.
Well, and hopefully even across agencies, right? So if you can
Absolutely.
if you can use the same data, that's important.
Even better.
Even better. All right, so we appreciate that. We know we have some folks that have multiple. Let's see. Let's take a look at the roles real quick, and I'll take a look at the comments too, just so I know. And I'm going to pull up the other comments. Collect health data and publish. Got it. And run instrumentation collecting sample data. Love that too. So there's a lot of folks that are involved in this effort, and we always love your feedback when it comes to this. So speaking of that feedback, how do you collect it now? Now, we already know, Daniel and I, at least, I don't know about you, Jimmy, but we already know what the number one answer is going to be. Is it spreadsheet, phone, email, paper forms, or a survey tool? And if you have any comments, you can let us know. And does your collection require GLP, good lab practices? What is GLP, Daniel?
Well, GLP is a lot of things, but GLP was originally brought about to make sure that data integrity and data quality was being achieved from a scientific level. But our tool makes sure that good laboratory practices is baked into the tool to make sure that if there is any audits of the data, that you come out of that scot-free. So
right on.
Yeah.
Right on. And we'll get to this case study in just 1 second. Pop this up real quick. Can you guys see that? Did that change over to Jimmy?
Yeah.
All right.
It did.
So as I mentioned earlier, Philip Moore was originally going to do this, and he wound up getting himself promoted. So Jimmy's sliding into that. Is that your new role now?
Yeah, so I've moved more into a full-time study director position. Previous to this, I was the administrator for all these e-field data books that we put into practice. And essentially, I was Philip's right-hand man, and now he's moved on to do more scientific kind of stuff within the organization. And so I have since stepped into his place, and we are in the midst of transitioning, and that will fully occur by Q1 of next year. So.
All right, fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's great to meet you. And how long have you been with IR for?
I've been at IR4 for about 5 years, and prior to that, I was working in controlled environments, doing a lot of assay development, whether it was with GM seeds and or plant physiology, and also looking at next gen fungicides and stuff of that nature.
And what is GMC?
Genetically modified corn seed, predominantly soybeans, stuff of that nature.
All
working
right,
for the
cool.
big companies out here in RTP.
Awesome. I love that. All right, so give us an overview of what the IR4 project does and how it interfaces with the EPA and USDA.
Sure. So what we're taxed to do is a lot of times big companies will release chemistries out on the market and they're looking, I mean, they're in the market to make money, right? And they're going to make money off of corn, cotton, soybeans, the large acreage crops. And what we focus on are the specialty crops, and that's kind of defined as anything grown on less than 300,000 acres in the US. And it can be anything from coffee to lettuce to apples, oranges, dragon fruit. It just about 75 to 80% of what you see on your dinner plate on any given night,
Mm,
IR4 has probably had something to do with it. And so what we're tasked with doing is ensuring that the chemistries that growers are allowed to use for these specialty crops, our task is to figure out how many residues are left behind or metabolites of those residues. There's a lot of other things we're involved with in what we ornamentals, and we're also involved in biopesticides. So we do work in that kind of area as well. But the big focus for us is to figure out what residue levels are after something has been used to control a pest. Um, and so the way this came about was we work hand in hand with private industry, the USDA. We get funding through the USDA. We also use ARS, Agricultural Research Service personnel to conduct field trials. And then we also use the land grant universities to conduct field trials. Next slide,
awesome.
please.
Yeah, you bet.
And so we're broken up into four different regions: the Northeast, the North Central, Western, and Southern regions. As you can clearly see, we cover the whole United States, including Hawaii and Alaska, and also Puerto Rico. One of the things that we have started probably within the last 10 to 15 years or so is working hand in hand with Canada and trying to get cross-border registrations, if at all possible, and sharing data back and forth. One of the things that we do is to ensure that our growers are not going to get penalized for the work that we do, is we ensure that we get our stuff registered prior to giving data up to the international community. So, and then one of the things is that we are under good laboratory practices. So we have to dot every I and cross every T to ensure. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we can tell the story in 10 years from now exactly what happened in any given project. And so to do this, we have to collect a lot of data, and we typically conduct anywhere from 300 to 500 trials a year. And we had a lot of duplicative data. We moved the IR4 headquarters from Rutgers, New Jersey to NC State in 2020. We had to move approximately 3,000 to 3,500 banker boxes full of paper to an offsite archive here in the Triangle region. And then the timeline has traditionally been from data collection to data review has been 1 year. And one of the things that we found that we had to do consistently was have a quality control check. And now with the use of these e-field data books, there are ongoing discussions as to whether we need to do that anymore, because most of the errors that we were finding on paper were in calculations, and those are automatically done by the e-field data book and verified instantaneously. And the project managers, what we call study directors, have instantaneous access to see if those numbers are working out on any given day.
That's interesting. So how long did it take from the time you started to the time it got kind of transitioned?
So it's probably a 3 to 4 year process from the time that we identified the project that we were going to do until it actually got to the EPA and through the EPA for registration and use to the end grower.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
there you go.
we started this transition. One of the things that we did, and we spoke about it earlier, is we involved every layer of the organization within IR4, whether it was the end use researchers, the study directors slash project managers, and anybody in between that would potentially touch these books. It used to be that we would put a book together. We would send 50 books or 100 books to, California by mail, i.e. FedEx or some other institution. And then books would then be mailed to the individual researchers. They would fill them out, do all the research, mail them back to the main point so that they could be reviewed and quality controlled and then sent back to headquarters. What's going to be an interesting exercise is in another year or two where we could see how much we've reduced our shipping bills and stuff of that nature. The other thing that we felt like was really important is to build the forms within the electronic field data book to match as closely as possible to the forms that we had traditionally used on paper. And so one of the things that we had done is we put together a focus group to build these forms with and say, all right, what do you think about? We would put together an outline or a sketch of a form. And thanks to iAdvantage, they allowed us to do this. They allowed us to practice and refine what we needed for our processes because we're a little bit different than the traditional chemical ag companies in what we do and how we do. And so, but it was really, really important introducing change to get buy-in from across the organization.
And we know scientists, they love to change, don't they, Jimmy?
Fantastic. So, but it was really important for us to get buy-in from other people throughout the organization and let them feel like that they were a part of building this system.
And speaking of that, Daniel, how important is it to get the design part right up front, just like Jimmy said?
It's very important. So, I mean, that's going to decide whether or not your data is of the highest quality on the back end. There's nothing worse, and it's an ongoing process because from one year to the next, you may have refinements and things that you realize that you didn't capture, on year one that you maybe want to capture in the next year. But yeah, it's there's nothing worse than realizing at the end of your trial or at the end of your data collection that, I totally forgot I need this piece of data. Well, it's too late now. Better luck next time. So making sure that your design is done correctly up front is crucial.
Do you agree with that, Jimmy?
Yeah, one of the things that we've really tried to do within this organization is have an open door policy. If you have any questions, feel free to contact myself and get answers. And then the other part to this is ensuring that people feel like they have a voice and that they're heard. And because every year we're going to make improvements or try our best to make improvements to what's being done and how things are being done in the field. And as much as we can do to improve that. So we're essentially in the midst of our third year. The first year we only had a couple. I think that's probably on the next slide or so.
Yeah.
We only had, we had 4 or 5 different trials the first year in 22. And then we went in full bore last year. Last year we allowed people to still use paper as a backup. And then this year, we have pretty much for the most part not allowed the use of paper unless there are very special circumstances. And so with that, and each year we keep reiterating, trying to figure out what works best for these people that at the end of the day, they're the end users and they're the ones that have to be comfortable. And so it's an ongoing process that we continue to really work towards to make this as easy as possible and as easy of a transition as possible.
And it seems like it worked out pretty good.
It's worked out very well. There are certain aspects of this that we haven't gotten to the end line yet. So soon we'll be having certain studies that have every single notebook that's an electronic field data book. And iAdvantage has given us the ability to write a report without having to do it manually. And that is going to save countless numbers of hours for the study directors. What would take probably days for a large study, even for a small study, it would take at least a day, if not 2 or 3 days. You're talking 24 to 40 or more hours to get these documents put together. It's a click of a button now.
That is awesome.
How would you go about that, Jimmy, when it was on paper? How would you put your reports together? Would you pull the data together and then
so every
convert it to a
notebook would
PDF?
have to so every note, it was all done via a Word document and then saved as a PDF. But originally you'd have to take every single field data book that you would get into headquarters and summarize this data in a 2 to 3 page document.
So there
And
was some
now
transcription involved for sure.
a significant amount of transcription. It was all transcribed, none of it. And
Ah,
so we will no longer have to do that moving
so that's a
forward.
huge time saver in and of
Yeah,
itself.
that's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, it's a good thing nobody ever makes mistakes when they do that.
Right.
I love the line at the bottom here. Researchers who grew up with computers and those who grew up with typewriters and punch cards. Stop
But
talking.
we have a whole gambit, you know. I mean, we've got some really young folks. We've got some that, I mean, we had a researcher retire in June of this year.
Mm.
You know, so we have to get buy-in from everybody to the best ability that we can. And we've been able to do that. You know, and there are times that people are kicking and screaming because change is difficult. And so I think the biggest thing about this whole project was the change management part of it, and how we were able to get through that and kind of transition from using nothing but paper to using nothing but a computer, basically. And so,
It's like a tablet? Or how does that work?
so right now you can either use a tablet and or a laptop.
Okay.
There are online versions that some folks use and have the capability to use. So, and then it's our understanding, and maybe Daniel can speak to this, but hopefully in the fairly near future, we'll be moving to phones if they would like to use those as well.
Yeah, so you currently, Dave, you can collect data online. There's a web application, but then we also have a native application that allows you to work offline for Windows and for the iPad.
And that's
But
important too because of connectivity, right? Someplace.
absolutely, yeah. A lot of these fields where the data is being collected, there is no connectivity.
Correct.
So, and you know, before that wasn't an issue with paper because you would just bring your paper notebook out there
Right.
and then ship it back. But you know, you want that data integrity. You want data to be collected in the field to make sure time stamped things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So help me make sense of this one, Jimmy. How does this
Sure.
work?
So this is a little bit of what I was talking about before, but you can see there's an inordinate amount of steps to go from beginning to end through the whole process. And so one of the things that this e-field data book allows us to do is have, you know, we can get rid of quality control checks because that's already being done by the program and by the software itself. And this is just kind of an idea, but one of the things that you can see is the SD in the very middle. It says SD drafts final report, and then FDB summaries. This software enables us to not have to transcribe from anywhere from 5 to 15 or more field data books to make these final reports. All that's going to be done at the click of a button. So that's what I was kind of talking about earlier. And to think that we may have anywhere from 30 to 35 or 40 studies per year, depending upon funding, that's a lot of work on any given day or any given month or year. So, and we do this every single year. We provide more data to the EPA than I believe any other organization. So,
Wow. So anytime you start something, you mentioned it earlier, change
yeah,
never comes easy, right?
correct.
So
This is
how did
how
it
we
work?
went through it. We built a build team that just said, all right, y'all are the end users. This is what you're accustomed to on paper. What can we do to make this computer easier for you? And then in 2023, we did 5 or 6 trials, got feedback, made changes for the 2024 field season where we allowed people to use paper as a backup. And in 2024, gathered more information to make more changes for the 2025 season that we're currently in. And that process will continue until we get this really dialed in. And if I were to guess, we've probably got another 3 to 5 years. Maybe even, I mean, it'll probably end up being a continual process.
Sure.
We had continuous trainings. We've already had 4 trainings this year. We'll have another training later this afternoon on some new information that we've been given. We have office hours. We are pretty much available 24/7. I was taking calls at 6 or 7 o'clock last night or 2 nights ago to help people on the West Coast. We have a suggestion box so that people can say, hey, I don't like this about the software, or I do like that about the software. so that we can try to implement these changes. A lot of what we deal with is in the forms that were originally built by this build team. So it's a fairly easy and straightforward fix that we don't necessarily have to have iAdvantage involved in, which is a nice feature to have, in that because we know what we're doing a lot better than Daniel does or anybody at iAdvantage, because we do it every day and they're not in our shoes. And so it's a lot easier for us to make certain changes. And there are times that we have to ask them for help, to maybe institute something or something along the way. And so
And
I have not had a situation where it's been more than 24 hours to get anything fixed that we've asked to get iAdvantage to get fixed for us. I mean, they are very, very good to work with.
love that. Love to hear that. So when you talk about some of the benefits, right? So you mentioned right out of the gate, calculation errors were some of the things that you were finding on the
We
paper.
we may find a calculation error 15 months after the error occurred.
Whoa.
And at that point, we would have to redo the trial because it was no longer valid, because it didn't meet the specs that we needed it to meet. The amount of paper movement across the country in this organization was insane. I don't have a number off the top of my head to show how much we've reduced shipping costs, but I can promise you it's a significant amount. There's no more transcription of data. I've been harping on that because that's where we're getting to. These first sets of studies that we did last year, the e version of these books are now becoming available, and we will begin writing final reports, and we're probably going to shave 6 to 9 months off of the time. That's the hope, at least right now. And you can quantify data. The hope is that at some point this will lead to integration with AI and the ability to reduce trial loads that we have to do, saying that, this is what we found with X, Y, and Z. Instead of having to do 15 trials to get a tomato registration, maybe we can do 5 or 6 to verify what the models we've been able to build from this data. We're not there yet, and that's a long-term goal, but that's a hope and a dream at some point, probably 3 to 5 to 7 years down the road. We'll see how it goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I think the best thing is this picture at the bottom. A typical trial notebook that we would have is anywhere from 300 to 400 pages at times, and now we're down to 30. So it's a significant reduction in the amount of paper that we have to have and move around.
That is awesome. All right, so we're on a pop up for some next steps. I'll get you the ability. We do want to engage you guys as well. If you have any questions, we'll keep this cooking. But yeah, let us know if you have a existing need. You want to schedule a demo with Daniel and his team. That you can discuss a pilot. Yours started out similarly, right, Jimmy?
That's correct.
Right.
We agreed to a pilot while they were building the system, and we were figuring out what we needed and how we needed to use it. And they were very generous because we needed to test it. Like, we're going to send this out to 100 people across the country. They need buy-in. We can't just say, hey, this is what we're doing. You have to live with this, whether you like it or not. Right. And so that was very valuable in terms of the implementation steps that later came.
Yep. And we're always looking for feedback, right, Daniel? We want to make sure we're collecting information back from you guys in this, just our dialogue here, as well as anything else that you'd like. And if you have any comments, we'd love to hear them. I mentioned earlier that you are under no obligation to buy from anybody, but if you did want to, you can. You know why? Because iAdvantage is a GSA schedule holder, and you guys should use your GSA pretty good, don't you, Daniel?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so that's good. All the information's there. If you talk to procurement and they need anything in particular, they will work with you to get what you need. And you will get a recap email later today with a copy of the presentation, links to all the session docs. There's a bunch of them in there. If you get, like I mentioned earlier, it looks like this. All you have to do is click this I'm going to pop this back in here with you for the session docs, and you can get those session docs and download the presentation itself. That's right here, the interagency briefing. And if you'd like to reach out to Jimmy, that's your direct email there at the
Correct.
at the university. Is that what we're
Yes.
saying? Awesome. I do like the fact that you have these things you can use for the codes to be able to go directly to check out the full stories if you would like, and you can always connect with IR4. They would love to hear from you, I'm sure, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of really interesting things, and the more you know, the better off everybody is.
That's a fact. All right, we are going to open it up for questions. I'm going to pop this back open here. Let's see. Please also discuss how DOGE plans to ensure quality control aspect of the data during collection and reporting. I'm not sure about the DOGE side. How would you say it, Daniel? That came from Jaffrel. So if you're talking about quality control, that's one of the biggest things on the front end, right? Right, Daniel, is to make sure that you have things locked down. You've always used the example of like streets versus roads versus boulevards and all that stuff, right?
Right. Just simply locking fields down to at least to a type, to a string. If it's an integer, if it's a single, decimal places, things like that, especially in the scientific community, significant figures is a huge topic of discussion. So things like that, even if it's the bare minimum, it's going to improve your data quality on the back end.
Yeah, anything that you do right on the front end helps on the back, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. What additional training an employee would need to become more efficient in using these tools? Jimmy, that's a great one for you from Evangelia.
Yeah, so we hosted several webinars because we have researchers across the country. And so to increase, it's about like anything else that I've experienced in life. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So just practice. And one of the things is we have a national education conference in 2024, I believe. We had one of these conferences where we basically set up an artificial e-field data book for everybody to get into and to practice entering data and getting used to the system and how it works and stuff of that nature. And that was very beneficial for us.
Michelle is asking, data migration to and from the platform. How does that work?
That's a good question. It'd probably be a case-by-case basis. So if you have more details on that, we'd love to talk offline and, discuss possibilities.
And Naressa says, collecting data for small data calls. Not sure exactly what that means.
So we routinely I may have an answer for this. I'm not sure. And if not, she can gladly let us know. But we routinely get audited by the EPA, and they have since been looking at our e-field data books, and we have not had any findings with regards to that at this point. So, and as we understand it, from that arm of the EPA, they are accustomed to seeing these books and are used to seeing these books and have seen them across other institutions.
All right. And David's asking the question about communications equipment not connected to the agency LAN, but available through GSA or some other place, I would assume. So how does yours work, Daniel? What's the process for you?
So if you're collecting data on the web, it's immediately uploaded to the database in the cloud. But if you're on a mobile device or using one of our native applications, what you're able to do is actually check forms out so that nobody else can enter data into them, locks it down, and brings it offline so that you're able to collect data offline. And then once you have network availability again, you're able to check those forms back in, move them online, and then the data is immediately available in the database.
Okay, cool. Any other questions before we jump? Want to make sure we get them all if you have anything in particular you need, you can say to Jay Blackburn. That's Jamie Blackburn's email address. He works for iAdvantage, so he'll be able to handle that for you if you have something you don't want everybody and their mother to see. And let's see if there's anything else here. And there was a lot of talk about data quality, and there was one here back from David as well about applications on data quality, making sure that the quality is right and that you can trust the data. That's critical, isn't it, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, data integrity is a huge piece of GLP in its essence. So being able to have data quality and integrity is going to really bring the value out in your data. Because how bad would it be to have all this data and build a report and then, someone calls you out on your numbers and you go back and realize that, somebody manipulated the data. And so
Yeah.
it'd be a waste of time and it makes you look foolish. So
Yeah, and one of the things that we found is you have to log into the system, and that's how it tracks and traces who puts what into the system. So
Right.
there is an audit trail available, and we actually use that audit trail often to ensure that we do have data quality. And our QA staff uses that audit log to ensure that the books that we're getting after they're completed have quality, usable data.
Right.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And Barry, let us know if you had the examples of the e-study examples relevant to EPA, because I think that's directly what Jimmy was talking about. So let us know if there's anything additional you need, because I thought you did a great job, Jimmy. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, and appreciate what you're doing with IR4 and making sure that our food has the acceptable levels of pesticides, because that would be a bad thing.
Yeah, we're helping to ensure that it's safe and that the growers have the tools that they need to be able to provide as much as they do and keep America as bountiful as it is.
That is awesome. Well, I appreciate everything you're doing, man, and great stuff. Great job filling in and stepping up for Philip, taking on his presentation. Awesome. And Danny, it was always great to see you. Anything last comments you have for folks?
No, I would just say we welcome the opportunity for anybody to reach out to us if you have any other questions or would like to know more about the product or data best practices. We'd love to take it offline. You can either email us through info@iAdvantagesoftware.com or that Jay Blackburn email that was present previously. So,
and if you're having data issues, you'll just pick up the phone or shoot an email, right, Daniel? Because you'll help them.
It's always good to have a sounding board, and hopefully we can be of assistance.
Awesome. Well, I promise you, we get you out of here, like we said. Awesome job, Jimmy. Great job,
Thank
Daniel.
you.
Awesome to see you guys. Anything you want to say, Jimmy, before you go?
No, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We have been very, very happy with our interactions with iAdvantage.
Well,
So
I
thank you.
appreciate that. I'm sure iAdvantage appreciates that too.
Absolutely.
Yep. Great to meet you, Jimmy. Awesome. And we will, if there's anything else you need, please feel free to reach out to these guys. They'll be glad to help you any way they can. All right, folks. We'll see you next time.